Good morning. And yes, as we promised you, we've got music here, and I'm already swaying and singing. I've been singing all morning, actually. I've been singing a little opera, I've been singing a little, who knows what I've been singing. I've been singing all kinds of stuff today. And I was reminded of a song by Chris Rea. And I played it for Carolyn this morning, and she said to me, "That's not my kind of music." It's very sad. Can you turn this? I'm going to lean forward, excuse me, and I'm going to just lift the lid. There you go. So we're done with the music. So I played it for Carolyn this morning, and she said to me, "That's not my kind of music." It's very sad. Can you turn it? What are we actually doing here?
Just give me a second because it's feedback from here.
Oh, so. All right then. So we're still live then.
Yes,
we're still live. So anyway, sorry, we got some feedback from my iPad there. But anyway, Chris Rea, if you want to check it out, it's very moving. It's also very spiritual. You never expect Chris Rea to, well, actually I do expect him to be spiritual, but a lot of people know him just because he's a sort of fabulous musician. I'm sure if Dean's out there listening, he'll know who Chris Rea is. All right, the song that we've been singing is Tell Me There's a Heaven, and it is a bit of a sad song, but it's very moving, it's very wonderful, and it sort of talks about all those feelings that so many of us have, because, you know, is there really a heaven? You know, all these awful things happen, and we tell our children there's a heaven, we tell our children that God is watching, but is there really? And this song is about, you know, never mind telling the children, never mind reassuring the grandchildren that there's a heaven. I'd like to be reassured too. And not me personally, but the song is about we grown-ups wanting to be reassured also that there is a heaven. All right, so good morning anyway. So we're done with the music, we're done with all the singing stuff. And so first of all, as always, I would like to say good morning to my spirit guide Gregor, who is standing to my right side. And excuse me, and I'm going to just lift the lid. There you go. So we're done with the music. So I played it for Carolyn this morning. To try and do she said to me, "That's not my kind of music." It's very sad. Can you turn it? What are we actually doing? Carolyn's going to fix it. I don't know if she's still there. Oh, all right then. So we're still live then. Yeah. Should we come out and go back in again?
No, just give me a second.
We who know nothing. Well, me who knows nothing. Is that it? Are we good? I'm so sorry about all that nasty feedback. It is, as I've said before, when things go wrong, it is a live show. And that's what you get when it's live. And we don't have all those technicians and all of those people who can deal with this stuff. There's just Carolyn. And anyway, so we've already said good morning.
Everybody's cracking up. They're all amused at our technical abilities here.
You mean lack of technical ability? And well, thank you for laughing, because we're laughing as well. Anyway, so I mean, let's not get worked up about little things like that, right? All right. So we said good morning to Craig. We can see that what this kind of what this program is going to be about. Can we also say good morning, Carolyn?
Good morning, Carolyn.
Again, just every week. All right, our subject today, if you didn't join us for our Healing Minute on Facebook, which we always do on Thursdays, just before we do live YouTube, we go on Facebook. And if you want to go on Facebook, you'll see that I've put certain people, I've mentioned certain people who are on our healing list. And please, if you'd like to join us, we have people all around the world who join with us to send healing to all of our patients, all of the people who are on our list, people who request healing, people who have written in requesting healing for their friends, for their family, and so on. If you know of anyone you'd like to put on our healing list, please email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, ask for them to be put on our healing list, and we shall do it. Everyone on our healing list is sent prayers every day, and we send healing every day. And of course, Grey Eagle is reminding me to remind you that he is, you know, he's the one in charge of all of that stuff. So, and God, of course, beyond all, is in charge of all of that. So thank you for joining me for that. If you want to know any more about healing or about our healing list, again, email us, rosemary@rosemary.com. Our subject this morning, all right, now we can relax. We've done all that, what I call the office stuff, the paperwork stuff, right? So Our subject today is, and I'm sorry to tell you, we were lax. I'm blaming Carolyn completely for this. We were lax. We did not put up the topic for today until like an hour ago or something. I'm so sorry about that. But our topic today is going to be about psychic abilities, and that covers a wide range right there. And are they inherited? And so all of you who are live, and those of you, who are listening, again, if you want to know more about this subject, you know what to do. Email us. This will be the third and probably the final time I shall say at rosemary@rosemaryantaltea.com for any more information. So good morning to all of you who are live, and good morning to, anyone out there listening. And yes, what?
Thank you, Maggie. Maggie said that I was busy with soul signs. That's why. And so you can make the announcement.
Oh, well, hold on just a minute, Maggie, because I need to be really clear now. Carolyn is brilliant. She's brilliant at all that technical stuff. Oh my gosh, she does a fabulous job. But make no mistake about it here. I do have to tell you, I have been working right alongside, crossing every T, dotting every I, looking at every comma, etc., etc. It's very interesting because we've been also comparing it with the original book, which was, obviously done by a professional publishing house. And the mistakes we've actually found there, you think, it doesn't matter what you do, you think that you've got every mistake, you think you've got every, and it's no good people saying spell check, use spell check. Spell check only works in certain ways, and it will only work if, there are so many words there, T-H-E-R-E, T-H-E-I-R, etc., etc. So the editing process is grueling, to say the very least. So I'm going to say thank you to Carolyn for that, because she's done a brilliant job, and she puts it up and does all the technical stuff on top of that. But I'm also going to give myself a little pat on the back, because I am known in certain circles, when I have workmen in my house, they don't like me very much. When I have, when I'm doing a workshop, my students, etc., etc., I've been known to be called hawk eyes, because I do have eyes that see so much. I can go upstairs and look around and see that the painter missed that teeny spot that nobody else would ever see, ever see. So workmen are always nervous around me, because they know that I'm going to spot the stuff that needs to be fixed. And so with editing, I'm pretty good at that, except that it is so grueling. We have read that book how many times now? Like over and over and over. And thank goodness that it is a very exciting and a very informative book, because we have broken up that editing process. When you read something the first time, it's amazing. You read it a second time, and great, because you see and you understand more than you did the first time, a third time, etc. But when it gets to 20 or 30 times, am I right? I'm not exaggerating, am I? I'm really not exaggerating. The bit of boredom gets in. The amount of times in the past when I've been editing, of course, by myself, and you have to, print it out, for the publisher prints it out, and then you have to go through it and you have to read it. The amount of times that I have fallen asleep over my own work, over my own stories, because it is just so boring, is the word I want to say. But it's not that it's boring as much as that it's really, to see the little teeny mistakes, silly mistakes, like give us an example here, like
can be.
Pardon?
Remember yesterday?
We had, and it was in the book. It was the original book written like that. And I think I spotted that one. Yeah. Did. And we come to,
retrospective,
blah blah blah. Can be. Too many can be's. We only need one set of can be's. There was another word, and I'm reading the sentence because I'm reading it out loud now, because it's the final edit. And I'm reading the sentence and I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I couldn't work it out. So I said to Karen, look in the original book and see what it is. Completely different word. I think we had retrain, and it should have been refrain.
No, retained. Yeah.
It was refrain and it should have been retained.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to be sort of really watching closely. So it's a good thing sometimes that I am a Hawkeye. But the good news about this, rambling on and on and on, nobody's really interested in this, but I'm rambling anyway, because we've spent the last several weeks steeped in this thing, and we can finally say, woohoo!
Getting our second proof.
We're getting second proof, which will be here next week. Once we've got the second proof, it's just, then we just start taking orders and it's ready for you. Again, we did have several people write in to pre-order. If you want to pre-order soul signs, please email us. I'm not going to say the email again. Just rewind this or something. You'll see the email. I'll mention it again at the end of the show. But anyway, you can pre-order the book and we'll certainly take your name down and have that pre-order ready for you when it comes in. What we've done with this soul signs, we don't actually have it, do we, here? It's bigger. It's more a coffee table size. The print on it is certainly a little bigger, a little bolder, because, you know, it just makes it so much easier to read. But we've also turned it a little bit into a workbook as well. So every now and again through the book, we have blank pages with lines, so you can make notes in this. So it's you can see all the stickies. Ignore the stickies, but that is how it will be. It's a nice size. I don't know if you can see the print inside. I'm going to try and put it there, look like that. So it's, you know, it's bolder, it's nicer, it's easy to read, etc., etc. And there's more room in the book for you to make notes as you go along. And trust me, you will want to make notes. If you already have a book that isn't this book, you need to keep a notepad next to you as you're reading, because as you're going through, there'll be certain things that you want to make note of about yourself. There'll be certain things you want to make note of about once you start looking at everybody else and seeing what soul sign they are and how compatible they are or incompatible they are. I mean, the world opens up and you sort of get things from a completely different perspective. Do you have to be a certain soul sign to be psychic? Are certain soul signs more psychic than others? Did you notice how smartly and easily I slipped back into the topic for the day? And the answer to the question, do you have to be a certain soul sign, is no, you don't. Is psychic ability hereditary? Well, sometimes it is, yes, and it is amazing that, and I'm not sure quite why, but sometimes it's amazing. I have a grandmother, as you all know, who was put into a psychiatric hospital because she heard voices. We all know how weird I am, because I see, I hear, I sense, I'm aware in every way of the spirit world. So yes. And I do many other things as well. I do rescue work. I see the future. I see all sorts of things like that. So I'm sort of, you know, I run the gamut of everything. I have a niece who is also psychic. I have a sister who is a very religious person, and years ago, and I never heard it myself, but I know from stories that I've heard that she used to speak in tongues, which means basically that you can speak in a language that you don't know, you've never learned, but you go into sort of like, it's almost like a semi-trance state. And then someone obviously is talking through you, or you're picking up what somebody else is saying, and then you recount that, and it's called talking in tongues. And my sister, apparently it's a big rally somewhere or another in England, actually stood up, and I don't know what language she was speaking, but she stood up and she went to the microphone, and she went into this sort of state, whatever it was, and started speaking in tongues, which is, you know, I don't know the language, but there were people in the audience who recognized the language and understood the language. So, you know, I mean, very weird. And I also have my youngest sister. She would never claim to be psychic, and I would never say that she was psychic. However, there is the story that I'm going to tell later on about her. So let's go, before we go into any stories, do we have any questions from anybody out there? Or have you all gone silent and you just want to hear me talking about nothing at all? Come on.
Well, Dean says he has a question for another day, but you just mentioned something very similar to his question. His question is do certain soul signs appear more with one gender than another? I always see his retrospective in males, but not females.
Oh, trust me. Trust me. There are so many females out there who are retrospective, Dean. And I'm asking Greg all this. He has his hand on my shoulder as I'm talking to you, and I don't think it's a question of gender. It's not a question of gender at all. Didn't we have a gender question last week? I think we had a gender question last week about someone who said
transgender.
He felt that his soul was born into the wrong body because he was transgender. That's right. I don't think it has to do with gender, transgender. I don't think it has to do with that at all. I don't think it has to do with male or female. There is a weird theory, and I should say I've never followed up on the theory. I suppose I have a little bit followed up on the theory, but there is a theory, and it happens to be true in my case, that people who have a blood type of rhesus negative, as opposed to rhesus positive, which most of us are, people who are rhesus negative are more inclined to be psychic. It happens that in my case, certainly that is very true. Maybe it's something to do with sort of negatives and positives attracting. I don't know, really. I don't know what the theory is. It works in my case. When I read this theory, I found it very interesting because it certainly applies to me. And I have a very weird and very odd blood type. I'm not usual. I used to, years ago, have to carry a card around with me. Nowadays, they just take a bit of blood and put it into a computer and do all that stuff. But years ago, when I had my surgeries and had my kidney out, I had to carry a card around with me. It was a little green card which said, do not give this patient blood in case of accident. She needs plasma. As I say, things have changed since then, but I'm very weird. I'm a really weird person all around. What can I tell you? My daughter certainly is psychic, not to the extent that I am, but when she feels something or senses something, or when she talks to my father quite a bit, she's so spot on, it's amazing. So there you have another generational thing. There are lots of people who think that it sort of skips a generation and then goes to the next generation. I think
that was a question from Maggie. She said, is it always a skip generation, or can it go down to each generation? You, though, and not your siblings that inherited these abilities, or maybe they inherited a portion without realizing it, just taking it as normality, such as just knowing not to go down a particular street or down a particular event.
Yeah, I think that all of us, though, Maggie, have that. All of us have that knowing sense, and that knowing sense is our soul, and our soul speaks to us. You know, I always tell my students that you need to try to listen to the heartbeat of your soul. And yes, the soul does have a heartbeat. The soul also has a voice. And sometimes, you know, when you're driving and you sort of that, you have something, you can call it an inner voice if you like, you can call it just a feeling if you like, however it comes to you. Sometimes we know not to go right, we go left. When we ignore that inner voice, or whatever we wish to call it, when we ignore that knowing sense, we're always in trouble. When we follow that knowing sense, when we are guided by that knowing sense, which is our soul guiding us, then, you know, then it works out for the best for us. So, you know, you can call it intuition, you can call it a sense or a feeling, but every one of us is capable of that. And you can, in fact, develop that. You can, in fact, sort of make that more. You can, in fact, make that knowing sense stronger. There are certain exercises, there are certain ways to make it stronger. you have to come to one of my workshops where I can show you exactly what to do and what exercises to do. And maybe at some point we'll even have classes on YouTube. You never know. You never know what's around the corner. Oh, wait a minute, I might. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. So we all have that knowing sense. But being, let's say, being psychic, it's such a misused word, but being able to connect with whatever is out there in the universe, not necessarily with someone in the spirit world, but being able to connect psychically, to be able to tune into the energies that are beyond our normal vision, to beyond our normal hearing. That's what we're talking about when we talk about hereditary, when somebody sort of has this psychic ability which comes from their mother, their grandmother, whoever it comes from, wherever it comes from. I suspect that my mother had some of this, and I suspect it terrified her, which is why she probably was so tough on me and scared of me. I think my mother was very frightened of me, to be honest. So you know, so I do think that it does seem to run in families. It often does seem to skip a generation, but there are no rules with this. I think my daughter, if she really wanted to develop her gift, which she certainly does have, she could do that. But many, many years ago, she actually said to me, and she sticks to it to this day, I never want to do what you do, because I'm not going to spend my life sitting in a study on the phone talking to people or whatever. That was before I started traveling. I don't want to, you know, I don't want it to be my life, to be dealing with other people and to be dealing with other people's hurts and pains all the time. And quite rightly too, she shouldn't choose that. She's, you know, and I didn't choose it, actually. It was, let's say, thrust upon me. But if she were to choose to develop, I'm sure she could. I don't know how good she would be. My grandson, I know, is a very knowing child. We shall see. I have a suspicion about him, but we shall see. All right.
Speaking of grandchildren, that brings us to a question.
Go for it.
Marion in Sarasota asks, her grandson has an imaginary friend who he plays with all the time. Could this be a spirit?
Well, you know, young children are very sensitive, and they're very aware and also very knowing. And very often when a child has, let's say, an imaginary friend, we call it imaginary because we can't see, but the child can often see. And they'll often connect with a child in the spirit world, real child in the spirit world, who we might call imagined because we can't see, and we'll often have a relationship with that person. The interesting thing I find very often is that a lot of these kids who do have imaginary friends, are kids who maybe, without even their knowing or knowledge, have lost a sibling, or there was a miscarriage, or maybe a sibling from the generation previous. Someone lost a child, etc., etc., and this child is now able to connect with that child in the family who was lost to the family at some point or another. It's very interesting, and I think that if you have a child, or you know of a child who has an imaginary friend, you should never disparage it, never ever disparage it, and always, if you can, try very, very hard to listen to your child, to pay attention, and to take them seriously. Don't make more of it. Don't, you know, make it something that it isn't, but just listen and pay attention, and, you know, interact with your child, and see if you can then interact in some ways with that imaginary friend as well. It's a very interesting exercise, and it really can pay off and teach you a great deal. Okay, so do we have any other questions or comments?
Marissa asks.
Hello, Marissa.
And I think she's a new joiner. Real quick, though, we will say hello to Maggie. Hello to Dean, of course.
Hello to everyone.
Hello to Peggy.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, is it best to encourage imaginary friends then?
Is this another question?
Yes, in regards to what you were just
all right.
about.
I think it's best to listen to your child. I think it's best to pay attention. I wouldn't go as far as to say, let's encourage it. I wouldn't say discourage it either. I would, if your child says, Jimmy's sitting at the table, there's no reason why you can't say, well, hello, Jimmy. And you can then say to your child, is Jimmy nice? And get your child talking about Jimmy and whoever Jimmy is, etc. I mean, if you consider that encouraging, I suppose then it is. But don't sort of get it out of proportion. Try, if you can, with your child to treat it as if it's a normal and an everyday occurrence, which actually it is, just maybe not for you guys, but it is a normal and natural, you know, process that so many people do experience. Next question.
Okay, so Maggie's asking, Family Talk says in the Native American lineage, there's a grandfather that was shaman. Then in the Celtic side, there are gifts. And she's asking, can you and Samantha connect without the internet and the phone?
All the time. We're talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that. The Native Americans, or something about the Native Americans?
There's a grandfather that was a shaman.
Yeah.
Then in the Celtic side, there are gifts.
So you mean we're British, we'd say Celtic. Sorry,
Celtic side, there are gifts.
There are. My family, we're Celts or Celts, whichever way you want to say it. That either way is correct. We have my family. We have Scottish lineage. We also have Welsh lineage. The Welsh and the Scots are known for their. There's an expression. It's an old expression. They are Fey, F-A-Y, Fey, meaning. I mean, Fey means. I suppose it could be another word for psychic, but it's more than that really, or it's different, a little bit different, meaning that we're sensitive, we're knowing, we're aware. So I've got the Welsh on the one side and I've got the Scots on the other side. And, you know, for me, I think it was like a joining of boomf, you know, like this. Plus, you know, I'm so much like my grandmother in so many ways, and I've obviously inherited whatever she had. Thank goodness we're in an enlightened age and I'm not chained up in a, you know, or burned at the stake even, you know, put into a psychiatric hospital and on drugs, thinking, you know, and sort of thinking that I'm a crazy person. Not quite sure what the question is really.
She kind of expanded. She said, do heritage lines make a difference?
In my case, they do, obviously, because as I've just explained, you know, we have the Scots. You know, the Scots were a wild, wild bunch. They lived in the hills. The Welsh are, shall we say the same? No offense, because I love the Scots and I love the Welsh. My voice is definitely from the Welsh side because, you know, I don't know if it's something to do with the mountain air or whatever it is. But yes, we inherit certain abilities and certain things from our families. You know, the voice is one thing, musical aptitude is another thing. You know, we inherit all those things that, you know, from our lineage, from, you know, different sides of the family. I think what happened to me is that I inherited, I think my father, Welsh and Scots, was very, very knowing and very psychic, except that he put it to one side. He wouldn't ever use it, but he was very knowing. And then my grandmother on my mother's side, so we've got my father on the one side and my grandmother on my mother's side, and I think at some point when I was born, it sort of all went bang into me. There we are. Now, it could be completely different. It could be that my soul came to this earth knowing, having that knowledge and having that knowing, and just decided to, you know, house into this body. Who knows? I mean, so yes, it's inherited, but yes, there's much more to it than that. Yes, there's, you know, certainly lineage, yes, but there's much more to it than that. I think it goes beyond that. It definitely goes beyond that. But just because I'm psychic does not necessarily mean that my daughter is, and it does not necessarily mean that my grandson is. It just happens that they are, but it doesn't not necessarily mean that at all. As I already said to you, I've got 3 sisters and 2 brothers. My younger, the 2 brothers, is scared to death. My father was certainly psychic. My 3 sisters, apart from my one sister talking in tongues one time, they don't have any sense or any ability. Not that they disbelieve, they do believe, but they don't really have any of that ability themselves.
Well, Marissa asks, can playing or listening to music aid in psychic development,
Yes.
aside from clairaudience?
Yes. And listening to music, any kind of music really, sort of listening to music or eating good food, or even touching, every one of our senses, every one of our 5 senses, our touch, our taste, our smell, our hearing, and whatever else the 5th one is, oh yes, and our sight. Every one of those senses, if we can really sharpen them, practice them, tune into them, explore each of those senses one at a time, and music is one of the ways to explore our sense of hearing. What we do is we sharpen those senses. And the 6th sense, everybody talks about the 6th sense. All the 6th senses truly is those 5 senses so attuned and so connected to each other that, you know, out of those 5 senses emerges this 6th sense, this incredible coming together of the 5 senses. So one of the ways I teach my students, certainly, is it Marissa, is, you know, listen to music, put yourself in that place, but don't just listen, really listen. Put yourself in a place where you can tune in not only to the music, but perhaps even to the musician or to the violin or to the pianist or whoever it is who is playing, and just sort of try and put yourself where they are or where they were when they were playing this music. What it does is it fine tunes your hearing, which then enables you to your hearing becomes more fine tuned, which then enables you to hear more. Again, with seeing, don't just look at a thing, really look at a thing. Don't just eat something, savor something. Develop your 5 senses. In doing that, you're developing your 6th sense.
We have a comment from Blanca. She said she has 2 little ones, and I know they see and interact with spirits, things that I cannot see. I'd like to think it's their angels or my sister who passed a few years ago. And Maggie said...
well, can I just answer that? Because
yeah.
I have Greg tapping me on the shoulder here. Blanca?
Blanca.
Blanca? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, when you mentioned the sister, when Carolyn read out that your sister passed, Gregor tapped me on the shoulder. So I'm going to tell you that that's, I think, who your children connect with, without a doubt. I think they do connect with the spirit world, but I think your sister probably is a major influence in their lives, and probably is a major influence in your life too. And I do believe, Blanca, that it's her way of coming to you and saying to you, you know, you've not lost me. I'm here with you. Your sister, according to Grey Eagle, and I do have a presence also to my left side. I'm not going to say it's your sister. I'm just telling you that as I'm talking about her, I do feel a presence right here with me. She's very, very sensitive. The message clearly, Blanca, for you is that she's well now. She's okay now. She's well. She's well and she's healthy now. So you just have to, you know, take that message. Hopefully it helps you. And how wonderful it is that she's with your children and still a part of your family. That's really nice. Okay, next question.
Marissa is commenting about the music. She says, that explains a great deal because I listen to music daily as well as write, and I have very strong clairaudience. I take the meaning from each song, and yes, I do break down the instruments. And she said it also helps that I cannot see, thus focusing on my hearing more than anything else.
Fabulous, fabulous, because Marissa, you know, when you say you can't see, but there are many ways of seeing, and I think you know that actually. Um, when we lose one of our five senses, then inevitably at least one, if not more than one of the other four that remain, become far sharper, far more in tune. And for those of us who can't hear, and for those of us who are blind and so on, certainly we become much more in tune with those senses that remain. And I think obviously this is what has happened to you. And music can take us, it sort of, music can transcend, allow us to transcend beyond the earthly, beyond what we can see or hear in a normal way. And that's obviously what's happening to you. You're able through your music to transcend beyond this earth plane, and that's fabulous. So, you know, I'm always pleased when I hear that people do that. That's great. How lucky for you. There are lots of people listening or will be listening who will be so jealous of that. All right, next question.
Maggie's just commenting that her youngest connects to her sister a great deal, and she thinks that her grandson also sees her daughter. We had a question from Sunny.
Hello, Sunny.
I have experience with paranormal activity, and I know that when a spirit comes into contact with a living person, that person will feel static energy, like from a balloon. I don't understand why a spirit makes a person feel that the room is spinning around. Does the spinning of the room come from very strong emotions from the spirit, anger or happiness?
Sunny, is
Yeah.
that Sunny? Well, Sunny, we don't know if you're a man or a woman here, but anyway, it doesn't matter. We don't care. All right. You know, when a spirit, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. You're obviously talking from your own experiences, which sound great, actually. When a spirit, I hate calling them spirits, can't do that. When people in the spirit world connect with us or come to us, you say that there's static that people feel. Well, good for you. If you feel it, it means that you are very sensitive to that and very aware of that. But there are many people who don't actually feel anything. And in fact, there are many people who really, really wish that they could or want to know how they can possibly feel anything. I mean, Carolyn is sitting here. I'm talking to people in the spirit world all the time. I'm doing consults with people all the time. We often have a room full of people from the spirit world, and Carolyn will sort of shake her head and say, well, I can't feel anything. she's listening and she hears, and so she knows that what is being said is accurate. What she knows is that's being said is, you know, people understand, but you're not aware, are you, honey?
Absolutely.
She's
No.
got no abilities whatsoever.
No.
The spinning in the room bit, Sunny, also, it certainly doesn't apply to most people, I have to say, but I do know people that it does apply to. And again, those people, obviously you are one of these people who's extremely sensitive to this, you know, this situation. There are ways to control it. There are ways. You don't have to have that dizzying. You don't have to have that, you know, those bad feelings. Once you understand what's happening and you can control what's happening, you don't have to be spinning like a top in the room. That doesn't have to happen to you. Certainly doesn't happen to me. But you know, but you're one of the fortunate ones, because there are a lot of people who would say, oh, if only I could see my mother, if only I could connect with my brother, if only I, right? If only I could. And again, I will say to all of you, there are ways that you can develop your sensitivity. I'm not saying there are ways you can become a medium. I'm not saying that there are ways you can be like me, because who wants to be like me anyway? I'm too weird anyway. But there are ways that you can enhance your sensitivity. There are ways that you can enhance that sixth sense. And we've just talked about, you know, developing those five senses, attuning those five senses, becoming more in tune with those five senses is one way and a very definite way of your sixth sense kicking in and you becoming much more aware of those in the spirit world around you. You become much more aware of the energy in the universe. You become much more aware of the energy with the people that you work with in your office, for instance, or the energy of your family. So, you know, there are ways to improve and there are ways to become more aware and more sensitive, but that's very different than actually, you know, being able to tune in, to talk to the dead who we know aren't dead, to tune into people in the spirit world. It's a whole different thing. Yes.
Maggie saying when the room was spinning when she was younger, it meant that she had too much to drink, and her mom said to put her foot on the floor, and that would stop it.
That's very funny.
But Maggie also is commenting that her youngest daughter just had a dream of being at her grandmother's funeral, and this is her father's mother, who just passed away, and she said Meg was there wearing bright white, standing at the back of the room. But because her youngest daughter is still angry at her sister for passing away, she said that when she walked by her sister, she threw a pencil at her.
Well, it's good to get that anger out, you know, show the anger. That's always a good thing to do. But, you know, our dreams are often, you know, our way of visiting with those in the spirit world. Our dreams are often a way of those in the spirit world sending out messages. I get it why someone should be angry that someone has passed and they've left you all by yourself. I mean, come on, really? Did you have to do that? I do understand why people get angry about this, but getting angry is simply a person's way of expressing all the emotion that's inside of them. And that anger will lessen as time goes on, and as your daughter gets older, she'll become more realistic and she'll get a grip and she'll grow up a bit more and she'll realize that, you know, anger really doesn't do us any good at all. But I do understand why people should be angry or are very often angry when they lose someone special. You know, I've been angry. I'm trying to think when I was angry, more than devastated. When my father died, that was probably, well, it was actually probably the first time that I ever lost anyone close to me. So the first time is always the worst anyway. When you lose someone close to you for the very first time, all of a sudden you're hit with the realization and the knowledge of how fragile life is and how fragile we are as human beings. And I don't recall being angry at my father. I do recall being very angry at my mother and my sisters, who were not that nice at the time. I'm not judging them. I'm not saying why they should or shouldn't have been very nice. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is that, you know, when a death occurs in a family, there often is a lot of angst and a lot of anger and a lot of angst, a lot of upset, a lot of trauma that goes along with that loss, which is perfectly understandable, as I've said, because there's so much emotion going on inside of a person when these things happen that, you know, that emotion, if it stays buried inside, it's worse than, you know, because it'll fester. So, you know, if you've got something to say, try and say it nicely. If you can't say it nicely, don't say it nicely. But when you see somebody sort of shouting or angry or frustrated or throwing pencils or whatever that might be, it's a way of them getting rid of all of that stuff that's going on inside of them that shouldn't be there and will only fester if it's left there. Next, do we have
just
another?
from personal experience many years ago.
Do you want to come in the camera here?
I think I dyed my hair.
Oh yes, look at this redhead.
Yeah,
she's
burgundy.
She's burgundy. You look so brown next to me. What's going on?
I go to the beach more.
It's true. She's got more free time than me.
No, I have a 12-year-old.
Okay then. Okay.
Many years ago, I had a significant partner who passed away very unexpectedly. And I remember a week or so after he passed that I took out all the plates and glasses in his kitchen. It was his house that I had moved in, and I broke them all in the kitchen, threw them all over the kitchen because I was so mad for him for leaving.
Yeah. So you can understand that, right?
Oh, definitely.
But now, I might just have to ask this one question. Did it help when you smashed all those dishes? It helped for 5 minutes, didn't it?
Yes, it got out the needed. It was a needed release.
That doesn't mean you stop being angry, but in that moment, it was a release. I'm not suggesting, and I know you're not suggesting. Do not go around breaking things or throwing things. Do not do that. I know. I can remember years ago. It reminds me nothing apropos of nothing at all, and not even the subject. I can remember being so upset and so angry and so frustrated. I think it was when I found all my money had been stolen or something. Anyway, I remember kicking the vacuum cleaner. I mean, seriously, again and again, and using words that nobody would believe I was capable of using, but kicking the vacuum cleaner. And the only thing that happened then was I really hurt my foot. But other than that, I mean, sometimes we do have that frustration, and I'd rather kick the vacuum cleaner than kick the dog, or the husband, or whoever else is around in the house. But I'm not advocating it. So, but okay, we have to stop this. Go ahead. Who else do we have here? Do we have anyone else making a comment? Or are we finished?
No,
are we done?
We're not finished. We've got a bunch of chatty people here today.
Let's go. Well, good then, because
Okay,
we want questions from you. We want interaction from you. And if you don't interact with me, I'm going to, sort of get upset.
Barbara Rooney is joining us again.
Hello, Barbara. How are you?
And she says, hello, everyone. Last week, my 15-year-old son was filling out paperwork to go to Calcutta to work in the slums as part of his school year, which made me proud. He volunteered to go.
Yeah, that's tricky. Whoa.
She says, he told me to stop rubbing his head, and I hadn't touched him. I took comfort in telling him it was his grandfather who was trying to say how proud he is. Yeah, I would like to think this is so.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. How lovely. How lovely. How lovely for you, because I think that what your grandfather was probably trying to say is, don't worry, I'll take care of him. He was wanting you all to know that he was present there. So it's not just a question of being proud of your son, his grandson, but sort of trying his best, because I'm pretty sure as a mother, Barbara, if you're anything like me, I would be either strapping my child to the bed saying, you're not going, or I would be going with her. And if she didn't want me with her, I'd be sneaking at the back of the plane or something, because I would be so worried. Of course, I've got a girl, boys are supposed to be, I don't know, whatever. But as mothers, we're very proud of what our children want to accomplish. But at the same time, if you're anything like me, certainly, we do worry. So, and I think that your grandfather knows that as much as you are proud, you're probably terrified inside. This is not a place that you'd necessarily want your child to go. I mean, to Paris maybe, or to Rome, or to, I don't know, some sort of the Mediterranean on a beach somewhere. You might be able to handle that one, but to
she's saying she is worried sick.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
To go, especially to this particular place and in this particular environment. I'm sure that you're a worried parent, and I think that that this boy's grandfather totally gets that and is trying to reassure you, as much as to say, I'm proud of him, trying to reassure you, don't worry, because I'm going to be rubbing his head all the way there and all the way back. Don't worry. Okay. So I think that's what that's about.
Blanca asks, do you have a certain book that you would recommend of yours to obtain that level of sensitivity?
Yes, I suppose You Own the Power, I think. You Own the Power has different exercises and different things. I also do have something else that we're actually working on, which we'll let you know about that sooner. I used to do a correspondence course. Don't ask me to do it again because I'm not going to. It's far too much hard work for me. But all of the exercises are, I've still got them written down. And of course, I used to teach all the time. I still teach. And all of the exercises with my students are all written down. I've got tons and tons of those, which we may actually put in a book. I can see Carolyn like cringing a bit because this soul science book has been a doozy. But if we are going to do another book, but if we did do another book, we wouldn't have any of those awful diagrams that you couldn't get, and etc., etc. So we may be coming out with a book of exercises that you can use. So watch out for that. And in the meantime, Blanca, I'm going to suggest, if you email us, we have some of those, don't we? We have the copies of You Own the Power.
Yes.
And that probably would be your best beginning, I think. We also do have, for those of you, and who was it? Was it Marissa who likes music?
Yes.
We do have 4 or 5 meditation tapes that you might like to listen to as well. I feel as if I'm selling my own product, but I don't need to actually. But we have the Eagle and the Rose, which we brought out this year on. It's an audio with my little voice reading the book, which is really nice. But we also have meditation CDs, which really, it's basically some really good music with my voice taking you through the different meditations. And we also have a great conversation with Bob. Bob was one of my patients. He had a brain tumor, and I went with Bob to a recording studio, and I said, what I'd like to do is just record just the 2 of us talking, because before he came to me, he didn't believe in any of this stuff, I might tell you. He was very skeptical and so on, but he became my patient and we became great friends. So I'm driving him to the studio, and he said to me, Rosemary, you didn't give me a script. And I looked at him, I was a bit confused at first. I said, what do you mean a script? He said, well, I don't have a script. I don't have any questions written down for you. And I said, we're not going to use a script, Bob. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do it live off the cuff. It is the most brilliant. My daughter, who hates hearing me, she hates listening to me. She says I don't sound at all like mum when she's listening to me. She actually, her comment when she first heard this CD, it's called A Conversation with Bob. She said, Mum, it's like the best NPR radio interview. So she likes it, and it's very interesting, very, very interesting as well. All right, let's get back to the subject. So
we've got Maggie, who's going back to inherited gifts. My grandfather.
Good, Maggie. Thank you for bringing us back on track. Good. Yes.
My grandfather could divine water, and he was called on by neighbors to look for water. And his sister could read the heads of children to tell you if you would have any more and how many she read.
Oh, interesting.
My brother and told Mom she would have 2 others. Mom told her she was crazy, then had twins.
I like it. Water divining. I met a man in Greece, and I think the story. This is a fabulous story about a healer. He lived in Greece in a little town called Spitali, which is in the middle of absolutely nowhere at all, nowhere. And this water divine, I wanted to meet him, and I've been told about him by some locals. And they said, oh, well, you go down this road and just keep driving. Fine, yes. Okay. So we're driving and driving and driving, and probably 2 or 3 hours into this drive, I'm not kidding you, on dusty roads with no signposts, and we're sort of like in the mountains of Crete, which is one of the Greek islands. And so we're driving and driving, getting hotter and hotter, dustier and dustier, etc., etc. And we finally come upon a little tiny sign. And on this sign, hand painted, it says Spitali. Now, you could have missed it because It's like it was so small. But we saw this and we drove a little bit further and we came into what I can only describe must have been sort of the equivalent of a town square. There was nothing. It just, the road widened into this big square. As we're driving in onto this sort of big square of road, we see a man, and tall man just sort of standing in the square. We think to ourselves, finally, we can find this man that I'm looking for, this healer man that I'm looking for, who was in fact a diviner and made his living as a diviner. And so we drive past, my boyfriend at the time drives past him, and I say, turn around, that's him. And he looks at me, he says, don't be ridiculous. No, turn around, that's him. That's John Michaelides. This is the man we were looking for. So my boyfriend pulls around, my daughter's in the back of the car, we pull around, winds his window down, and the man leans in the window, leans in the driver's side window, he leans across my boyfriend, looks right at me, and he says, I'm John Michaelides, and I think I'm waiting for you. All the rest of that story is in Proud Spirit, I do believe. And it's a fascinating story about a man who was a water diviner. Water divining, healing, all of these things are these sensitivities that so many of us do have. I've taught my students to use the pendulum. I've taught my students, I actually took them out into the woods a few times with sticks. Willow sticks are the best if you want to try it. If anybody wants to go out and try them, you take 2 willow sticks and you just walk along with them. You have to be a bit sensitive. You have to be thinking, you're looking for water, you're looking for gold, you're looking for whatever it is you're looking for, because it's not just, you're not necessarily divining water. You might be divining metal. You can be divining anything you like, really. But we all are capable of that if we know what to do and how to do it. And there are a trillion divining organizations all over the world, and I'm sure in America as well. There are loads of divining places. There are loads of places. I had a bank manager once who called me in, and I thought, oh God, he's going to tell me I've got no money in the bank. This is years and years ago. And I said, what can I do? We'd become really good friends. I said, what can I do for you? He said, I just need to talk to you about a bit of business. But then, and he brings out a map. He says to me, can you help me with this? Can you do anything with this? And it turned out he was a member of a divining society, and they used a pendulum. And I teach my students to use a pendulum. It's very easy and simple. And if you've got people in your family, Maggie, who do this, and lots of different people who do this, then you've obviously got that, there obviously is that generational thing there. There obviously is this inherited generational thing, however strong it is, in what direction it goes. Because when we talk about spiritual awareness, it's a huge subject. It runs the gamut. There are masses and masses of different areas that we can go in. Yes.
Maggie's asking, can inherited gifts be portioned out in a family? So I was asking her what exactly she meant.
Well, I think I know what she means. Can someone get a little of this and someone else get a little of that? I think that's what you mean. I think it's more likely that like one of my sisters, she spoke in tongues. My brother doesn't want to do it, but I'm pretty sure he's had some experiences that he will never talk to us about because he's terrified. But yes, I think that some people in a family can get a little of it, and then every now and again you get someone like me who gets it a full whammy, if you like, the whole full thing coming at them. And but yes, for instance, in my family, as I've said, my daughter certainly is able to tune in. She certainly has that ability. My grandson also, I can see it already in him. How well or not he will continue with that, we'll have to wait and see. But yes, portioned out, I'm not so sure. But yes, it can run in families where some people are more sensitive, or some families are more sensitive in those areas than other families are, definitely. Any other questions?
Oh, I think that's about it. Dean, the girlfriend's gone.
Sorry, I've got ice in my mouth. That's what the problem is. Well, Dean, I think that's a good thing, because she obviously wasn't right for you. But I hope, really hope, that this wasn't your first and last attempt, because it still stands. If you want someone in your life, if you do want to have a relationship with someone, nobody's going to come sitting at knocking at your door. And I know that rejection can be really awful, and especially for fire signs, and particularly for retrospectives, but it hurts us all. But fire signs are so sensitive and so aware that rejection in any form can be really tough to take. It really can be tough to take. But don't give up. Please don't give up. Because, if you put yourself out there and you work at this, you can find someone who you can share your life with. We're just doing soul signs, and we were coming to the end of the book, and there was a passage in there about, once you know who you are and what you are, once you know what your soul sign is, you know what to look for in a partner, you know what to look for in others. And sometimes all those people who say, well, you shouldn't have to look for love, love will find you. Well, that's not necessarily true, because it's not going to find you if you're sitting at home all night long watching telly. It's just not going to find you. So you have to go out for it to find you. You have to go out for it to, to sort of, to be, to give it a chance, to have those opportunities. So Dean, and all of you out there who are feeling so rejected by life and so rejected by love, get yourselves out there. Go for it. Don't sit home watching TV. As I do. I'm far too old for, a romance. If somebody came knocking at my door, all I want, here's what I want. You want what I want? I want someone who can dance, who can take me ballroom dancing. How about that? Who likes music, who loves to sing, who doesn't mind whether it's the opera or a jazz night. But I'm really not, sometimes, you get to the point, Carolyn doesn't know this because she's never been there, but sometimes you get to the point where you can't be bothered, because you really don't want anyone else interfering with you or telling you what your life should be about or not be about. Anyway, I've said too much about me now. Anything else? Do we have any other comments or questions? How are we doing for time here? Oh, God, come on. Give it to me.
Maggie's saying, I can just see me walking around asking men, what soul sign are you? Because Maggie's single as well.
You don't ask them what soul sign they are.
Fire? No.
Hang on a minute. You wouldn't be a fire sign, Maggie, would you, by any chance? Because that was the reaction of a definite emotional, take what I say and just blow it out of proportion. Of course you don't do that, darling. You just get to know people, and then as you get to know them, you'll know what to look for. You'll know what questions to ask. You'll know, if you read the book, you'll know what you're looking for. And I remember I was going out with this one guy. He'd invited me out. We'd gone out for a drink, and then he called me a couple of days later. We're on the phone, how you do. We're having this phone chat, I think they call it now. In those days, it was just chatting to someone on the phone, but now it's a phone chat. All right. So, and he really nice, handsome, tall, handsome, good-looking guy. And I thought, oh, this sounds, this might be something. We had a nice time. We went for a drink. We had a nice time. Etc. He brought two pheasants to my house for me to pluck and cook. That's a hard one to say. Anyway, so we did all of that stuff, and then we're having this phone chat, and he had two young boys, and all of a sudden I hear him shouting at them, but he wasn't just shouting it as I might my child. It was sounded like my father from the old army days, and and I didn't like it. And that was it for me. You can talk to your kids like that. How are you going to treat me? So there are little signs always there along the way in any relationship that show you whether it's good or not good. The problem is that sometimes we so badly want a relationship that we ignore the signs, or we push them to one side, or we don't take notice. But there are always signs as to whether this is a good relationship or a bad relationship. And let me tell you, one of those signs is not how tall he is. One of those signs is not how good looking he or she is. One of those signs is not going to be what this person looks like on the outside. Of course, there has to be attraction. There has to be physical attraction. But if that's all you're looking for, you're going to be disappointed again and again and again. Just saying. All right. Any other questions there? Any other comments?
Maggie.
We're done with Maggie, because Maggie, it's just been you and me, and all those other people who are listening are just listening, and they're not responding. They're not interacting. This is not good. Everybody has to interact. Go ahead.
Marissa's sending us some of her music, and she's connecting with Dean, and they're going to be listening to each other's music.
Well, so there you are.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes here.
Marissa, let me tell you that Dean is a fantastic musician. Or so he tells me. No, he really is an amazing musician, and he plays lots of instruments. So you two should really, you have a lot in common there, so you can have lots of phone chats and things in the future. We don't know if Marissa is single or not, though.
We don't know that.
But
anyway,
and
somebody else has already said, well, maybe Marissa and Dean could.
Hang on a minute. This is not the Rosemary
dating show.
Actually, but I would be really good at that too. I would be really good at that. You know what I would be really good at? I would be really good at saying, ditch that guy or ditch that girl. They're not right for you. I would be really good at knowing if it was right or not right. But anyway, it's good that you're all getting together. What else is going on behind the scenes there?
Blanca says, is this the Rosemary Cupid show?
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, I am wearing pink today, and pink is, what is pink for? Pink is for gentle love. Pink is for love. Red, we always associate red with love, but if you know anything about energy and colors, pink, this is probably why we're talking about love and relationships rather than the subject, the topic, but we don't mind going off topic. We'll talk about anything at all, but pink is certainly for that beautiful, sensitive love. I always think of baby love or child love when I see soft pinks and so on and so forth. Anyway, so do we have anything else going on here? Yes.
Maggie.
Yeah. Oh, not again.
No, she's just confused.
Maggie. No, I don't mean that, because I'm really pleased, because without you, there wouldn't be a show today, Maggie. Let me tell you, we'd have to do something else. Yes. Maggie's confused.
Because she said you thought she was a fire sign, and
no, I was kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. She said she thought she was a visionary, but then she read the old soul. She's going back and forth. The one thing she knows is she's indecisive.
Hold on. What you're doing is you're not following the golden key. The golden key is first you find your group. Now, a visionary soul is an earth sign, and an old soul is a water sign. If you're going back and forth between those two, you are doing this completely backwards. First, find your group. When you find your group, you only have 3 choices. So if you're a water sign, you have a choice of an old soul, a peacemaker soul, or a seeker soul. If you are an earth sign, you have the choice of a hunter soul, a visionary soul, or a warrior soul. That's it. You can't go back and forth between I'm an old soul or I'm a visionary soul, or because you need to it is so important when you're doing soul signs. It is imperative when you're doing soul signs that before you ever look at what soul sign you might be, you need to first figure out what soul group you need to be in. And so many people are so impetuous, and they rush to see what all the soul signs are, and there are 12 that we would look at. They're so impetuous and they read all about them and they think, oh, I'm that and I'm that. And then they become confused. You cannot become confused if you do your group first and then your sign.
And she just gave herself a very big clue. She says, I can never pinpoint myself on anything.
Da, da, da.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you this, you're not an earth sign.
Nope.
So then you're not a visionary soul. There you go. And those wonderful water signs of ours, I'm looking at my, co-host here. You're the guy, I don't know what you are anyway, but anyway, I'm looking at Carolyn here. Greg was laughing when I say that, because Carolyn is a water sign, and Carolyn will recognize what you just said. You're laughing, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Right? Because here's what happens with water signs. They flow this way, and then they flow this way, and then they flow. They have a tendency to procrastinate, right? Do I like the green tile or do I like the blue tile? I don't know. Oh, I like the green. No, wait a minute, but I like the blue. An earth sign, a visionary soul, is not going to do that. They might do it for a little bit, but at some point they'll make a decision. You're still procrastinating after all this time. There's your biggest clue. So I'm going to say you have a choice of 3 soul signs, Maggie. You have...
Hold on. Can I add one more bit of information before you make your...
Yes.
Maggie always talks about her family. Always.
Well, there you are then.
That's the every single email. It's always about her kids.
And you send us a lot of emails, Maggie, don't you? So we know you. It's all about family. Everything's about family. You need to take a really good look at the 3 soul signs in your soul group. Now, making your decision for you. You are a water sign. I've just made your decision, which is fantastic. And in the water signs are the old soul, the peacemaker, and the traveler. Or I think that's right?
Peacemaker, seeker,
and
old.
No, sorry, not traveler, seeker. So I got it right the first time. Anyway, you're not a seeker. Let's get rid of that one. You can eliminate. Look at me. I'm helping you out here. I'm really being nice. You've got 2 left. You're definitely not a seeker because we know you too well. All right. You send us enough emails for us to know you too well. So now you've got a choice between the old soul and the peacemaker soul. Everybody wants to be an old soul. Everybody, because everybody knows about old souls. They don't really know too much about them, but they think they do. But let me tell you this. An old soul is that, really wise person who people go to for trouble. Even outsiders go and talk to an old soul. The peacemaker is much more family oriented and really about keeping the peace between the family, and is so family oriented to the exclusion very often of anything else that's going on around them. Not always, but very often to the exclusion of other things. Family is first, second, and last. Family is the seeker, is the peacemaker trait, which is what Carolyn is too. So that's as much as I'm helping you. I think I've already so there you are. But
could you clear something up real quick?
For who?
For a couple of people.
Go for it.
Martha is one of them.
I'll go. Hello, Martha.
And Marissa. Marissa says, I'm a Pisces. What does that mean? Although I was born in February, I should have been born in late July. And Martha says she's a Sagittarius. So do you want to set them straight on the astrological?
Hold on a minute. First of all, the Pisces is born in March. If you were born in July, then that makes you whatever that is.
Born in.
Oh,
she should have been born in July.
Here's the deal. All right. Astrology and astrological signs have nothing whatsoever to do with soul signs. Now, everything is connected, and I'm a Taurian, and a Taurian is an earth sign astrologically. But I'm a warrior soul, also an earth sign with our soul signs science, which makes me a double earth sign. Actually, one way or another, you're looking at a double earth sign. However, when you are dealing with soul signs, you do not, under any circumstances, figure in your star or astrological sign. You do not. It is not anything to do with it. And in fact, what I suggest that everyone should do before you even begin to work out soul signs, to read about it, to understand it, I'm not saying throw away your astrological sign. I'm not saying that at all, because it is important, but you need to set it to one side because it has no connection whatsoever in any way, shape or form with soul signs. It is not an astrologically based science. It is the science of the soul. It is the science of the creation of the soul. It is a science unto itself. And then, after that, and once you understand the science of soul signs, you can then bring in those other sciences, the science of astrology, the science of numerology, all those other sciences that are about. But when you are dealing with soul signs and you're looking for your soul sign, your soul group first and your soul sign second, absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any other science. It is a science unto itself.
Sarah, and you were just asking about
Sarah, do you know, Sarah, I was looking at my beautiful, is there any way we can?
Oh, sure, I could go grab.
Thank you. Sarah, I was actually saying to Carolyn this morning, because my orchids are still absolutely beautiful. They're doing really beautifully. And I said to Carolyn this morning, we should let Sarah know that our orchids are doing beautifully. And thank you once again. Someone else sent me some chocolate covered cherries. I have to tell you, they're all gone. I ate all of those. Dark chocolate colored. Look, can you see these? I'm just going to put them. I'm just going to put them there so you can see the blooms. Look at them. Isn't that beautiful? And really gorgeous and still doing really well. So thank you, Sarah. And you can just stick them anywhere now. Just put them on the table. Can we deal with Sarah's question?
Sarah was commenting how difficult it seems to be to pinpoint children.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was very difficult.
Did you?
Until my child did something dramatic.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
To really define.
Yeah. So what does Sarah actually say then?
Sarah says,
come on, baby.
Let me find your comment. Where'd you go, Sarah? Oh, sorry, guys. Okay.
Come here, baby. Come on. Getting a churro in because it's all hot and bothered. It's a hot day today here in Florida. We've got the air conditioning on. Come on, Sarah. Come on. Up. Oh, see? Oh, my baby boy. Yeah. He's hot and bothered today. You've lost it. All right.
I can't place my kids.
Okay.
Kids are so emotional in general, but I don't believe them to be fire signs.
Well, I'm glad you said this to us, Sarah, because because it's always good to hear other people's viewpoint. Because for me, of course, it isn't difficult at all. I mean, I already know what my grandson is, and I actually knew what he was before he was even born. So it is good to hear that, and to hear Carolyn say that as well. And I think probably Carolyn's right. You probably have to watch and wait. As they get older, you'll see their character traits. You'll see their tendencies. Are they, for instance, the kind of kids who interact well with other kids? Or are they the kind of kids who like to be by themselves? Are they the kind of kids who can, they want ice cream? I knew what, my daughter used to drive me crazy with stuff like that. Do you want the pink one or the red one? And and I don't know, and so on and so forth. But you know, you sort of look for the little telltale signs, and as you read through soul signs and as you read the character traits, you'll begin, and as you get to know the different character traits, the different soul signs, you will begin to see. But as your kids get older, I don't know how old they are, Sarah, but as they get older, and certainly as they get into their teenage years, you'll be able to tell more, and you'll be able to tell better. Sometimes, you know, if you've got a kid who's just that decisive kid who knows what he wants, knows what he's going to do, knows what he wants to be, knows he wants to go play baseball, thank you very much, and nothing else is going to convince him other than, you know, that he's got set in his own mind and set in his own ways, you can be pretty sure that he's an earth sign. If you've got a child who likes to stage and likes to dance and gets a bit dramatic and all the rest of it, you know, maybe you're thinking of a fire sign, but don't be in too much of a hurry to pinpoint them anyway, because you can't, you know, this isn't not about slotting someone into a hole. You're not going to put people into a different slot. So give them time and give yourself time to just, you know, take the time to figure it out, darling.
And a thought that I'd had with this new wonderful workbook.
Yes, here we go.
I am going to jot, as soon as I get my copy, I'm going to jot down what I believe my children are, and it's going to be the new family Bible. When I have a grandchild and I figure them out, I'm going to write them down in this.
I tell you, Carolyn is so enamored of this book. It's her Bible, right?
I love that book.
It is, really. She loves it. Of course, she has an advantage over everyone else because, especially as we've been editing and so on, we've been discussing and talking about things, and I've been explaining things to her and so on and so forth. And we, as I think I mentioned earlier, we are going to have some sessions on YouTube where we can do that. We're going to also, I think, we're trying to organize it. Of the friend who's helping me organize is selling his house, so he's no use to me right now, but at some point in the future, we're going to be trying to arrange some classes that people can do on YouTube as in groups where we can discuss soul signs. If you're interested in anything like that, let us know. Email us. Are we out of time yet, or are we okay for time? I don't know. I've lost.
We're okay for time.
Are we?
We've gone over our normal, but we still have 40 minutes of airtime. Should we want to fill it, we can fill it.
You mean we've gone over the hour?
Oh yes.
You mean
yes.
you mean you kept me talking?
They've kept you talking.
No. She's a sneaky little thing, this girl. You can thank this extra time to Carolyn. That's in the future. I'm going to have my clock here. You think I've got nothing else to do? You think I made some fabulous hummus yesterday, which we're going to have for lunch today, and I made some pita chips, brushed them with oil, garlic, salt. Are they good or what?
They are delicious.
They're really good. So we're going to have that for lunch.
Maggie said
and my stomach's rumbling like crazy. Yes, Maggie.
Maggie said to tell you she's so glad that you love the cherries.
Oh, Maggie, I've eaten them all. I didn't share them. I did give Carolyn a little pot of some milk chocolate. My daughter was so because my daughter came the following week, she said, "Why'd you give it to Carolyn? What's wrong with me?" Well, you can share my chocolate cherries with me, but then I opened the box and they were all gone. So that was
and everybody says, "Shh, there is no time. We're learning so much. It's so interesting. Keep talking. Where's the recipe for the hummus?"
You want the recipe for the hummus? It's so simple and easy. But here's a trick. Here's a little trick with hummus that people don't know. First of all, I make my own tahini, which is in the recipe book. We are going to be working on that now we've finished soul signs. Woohoo! The recipe book comes next. I make my own tahini, and if you want it, just email us, and I certainly can give it to you. The secret of a smooth, creamy hummus is to peel the shell off. I know it sounds a pain in the butt to do it. You don't have to do it. You can just throw all the chickpeas in all at once. But I take the shells off of mine because it makes it smoother. If you want it chunkier, keep them on. But there's a trick. You have to blend the lemon juice with the tahini. You have to really, really whisk it because some scientific, who knows what it is. It's like one's water-based and one's oil-based, or what the hell it is anyway. I don't know what is that. Just said hell on thing. Anyway, so sorry about that. Sorry about that. Hope it didn't offend you guys. But anyway, you have to blend them to the point where, you know, because they naturally separate. Oil and lemon juice will separate. So you got to whisk it and blend it before you put in the chickpeas and all the other stuff. There's little secrets.
We have a question about that. Can you blanch the chickpeas to take the coating off?
No, it to do one 15-ounce can of chickpeas. Just all you have to do is rub it with your fingers, and the thing will come off. It's only like a fine shell. If you can't be bothered to do it, just throw them all in. Just throw them all in as they are. It won't hurt you. Just make it slightly thicker, slightly chunkier, not as smooth, but you can do that. But do them underwater. It's going to take you less than 10 minutes to do it, really. I mean, come on, you know. Blanch them? No, they're already cooked. They're in the can and they're already cooked, darlings. So anything other than
Marissa's wanting to know about Cachorro. She wants to know what type of dog he is. He's beautiful.
He is a I'm trying to think what it is. He's a field spaniel. Come on, baby. Come on up. Somebody wants to know about you. Come on, let's go. Come on, up here. Up. He's a field spaniel. He's been there. He is beautiful. He's been, oh my darling boy, he's been fully trained for the field to hunt. He is just a perfect dog. But the most important thing about this dog is that the breeder, who is a good friend of mine, heard a voice when he was just still with his mummy in the cage with the mummy, just only days old, and the breeder heard a voice telling him, Rosemary's dog. This is Rosemary's dog, 3 times. And, you know, he usually sells these little babies for a lot of money, and he gifted it to me because he heard the voice saying, this is Rosemary's dog. And this little boy here is a healer. He's a natural born healer dog. And if you want more stories about him, read the books, because he is a healer. Just as my Nino was a healer, and just as Rosie was a healer, but this dog is particularly healed for me, specifically for me, because he came at a time in my life when I really needed healing. And he certainly, come here, baby, because everybody wants to see your face. He certainly is my healer. All right, this is it. Do we have any more comments? I thought we were going long. I thought program's never going to end. Any
I think we're good for today.
So if you have, oh darling, I'm all hairy now. So if you have more questions, if you have more ideas for a topic, subject, if you have any idea where you'd like to go on our travels out and about doing the ghosty thing, if you want to know more about anything at all, please email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. If you would like to, we are on Facebook. Join us on Facebook, 11 o'clock every morning, wherever you are in the world. Please join us for our Healing Minute, sending prayers out to all of those who are sick and in need of healing. If you want to be one of those healers or on our prayer list, please email us again, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Meetup, and that's it, I think, right? Karen?
That is it. I was just checking the last comments.
Do we have anything at all?
Everybody's just saying thank you, adorable doggy. Can't wait till next week. Thank you, Great Eagle.
And in the meantime, until we meet again, have a very, very, very blessed day.
I thought that was going to play.
Well, I did too, but there we are.